All right, let's find out what the papers are reporting on their front pages on Newspaper Review. And we do have Lemi Wigbe. Lemi is a public affairs commentator, gender and child rights advocate, and a journalist. Good morning, Lemi.
Good morning.
Hello, Lemi. Good to have you with us.
Same here. Thank you.
All right, let's begin by looking at the front pages of the Nigerian Tribune and the Nigerian papers. We begin with the Nigerian Tribune. New variant of COVID-19 causes concern worldwide as Netherlands, Austria, Belgium, Italy bar flights from the UK. And above the masthead of the paper, how 15-month border closure almost ruined private sector, why Buhari ordered reopening. On page 6 is where you find all those details.
Work hard for 2023. Summit tasked Ndibo to work hard to achieve target of presidency along with other riders. You might want to find the details on page 8 of the Nigerian Pilot. Age falsification. NJC recommends 2 judges for retirement. Page 9.
Let's look at the Daily Trust now. It's leading with second wave low testing as COVID-19 ravages states. Only 0.4% of Nigerians tested since February. Test costs 50,000 naira in private clinics. And let's look directly under the masthead of the paper. Chaos at airports over flight disruptions. Page 11 is where you find the details.
Daily Assets is reporting NIN 2 weeks deadline, unrealistic. Telecom workers speaking. One of long queue social distance violations. Federal government punishing Nigerians for its ineptitude. Front page story continues on page 2 of the paper.
Let's look at People's Daily now. Troops rescue 39 Islamia children, recover 8 rustled castle in Katsina State, and NJC recommends sack of Yobe Grand Kadi, Osun High Court. George, page 2 is where you find the details.
This day, how 80 Katsina Islamic pupils were rescued, say police, military. APC governors urge security agencies to protect Nigerians. Front page story concludes on page 3 of the paper. Investors gain 1.3 trillion naira as stock market rises to 19 trillion naira. That story concludes on page 13 of the paper.
The authorities leading with security falls another terror attack on school in Katsina. And let's go further down the front page or above the masthead of the paper. Kidnapping now new enterprise in Nigeria. Shoika is saying that on page 22.
Sam Inda Isaiah to be buried December 28th. Funeral obsequies begin Wednesday. That story is on page 4 of the Daily Times newspaper. Britain insists EU should move in Brexit trade talks. Page 5.
And the New Telegraph is leading with MPC members fret over deposit lending rate gap. Rewani foresees 2021 bank mergers and acquisitions. And above the masthead of the paper, military police how we rescued 39 schoolgirls from bandits.
Blueprint has a cluster of stories. Major headline, bandits now targeting traditional rulers, as according to an official on page 6 of the paper. COVID-19, more girls to be out of school in Northeast, according to a survey. You might want to catch up on page 6 of Blueprint. And
Leadership newspaper with a very big headline about Sam Inda Isaiah, 1962 to 2020 burial rights kickoff on Wednesday. Find details when you pick up the paper. May soul rest in peace. And state adopts stiff measures to contain second wave of COVID-19.
Nigeria's banks hold ground in $8.61 billion capital imports. Couple of riders. Front page story concludes on page 2 of Business AM. Stories on finance and investment, Nigeria frontier markets, technology and innovation, commodities, and agriculture. Lemi, there you have the major headlines today. But quickly tell us which of these stories captures your attention, from the COVID-19 pandemic to the security foiling another attack on schools to the 2023 elections as well. I guess these are some of the major stories.
Yes,
and of course the national identification number story.
Okay, as always, my sentiment will tilt towards my major concern. As a child and gender rights advocate, I look at Blueprint and take the story just beneath the masthead. COVID-19, more girls to be out of school in the Northeast survey. The survey was conducted by Connected Development, I think in partnership with the Malala Foundation or Fund. Now, this is worrisome. This is worrisome, increasingly worrisome, especially when there's been a lot of effort to get the girl child in the North to be recruited into school, to let their parents release them in. And it is increasingly worrisome when we marry it with the information that's emerged over the weekend from the National Assembly, the Joint Committee on the Joint Committee of the Senate and the House of Rep on the Independent National Electoral Commission, where the committee is seeking to amend the Electoral Act to the point that it even allows for underaged married girls to participate in elections, that's to vote. Now seeking to confer rights to children, to a girl child who is underaged, under 18. The Constitution says you can only participate in even being registered as a voter when you are 18. Beyond the surface, you look at it, it shows that even the National Assembly itself is playing a role as though an enemy of the girl child by so doing, because we're entrenching what we're asking should be dropped, which is not even early marriage, is even a euphemism, child marriage, which is pedophilia. Because in the guise of marriage, you go and have intimate sexual relations with a child who is incapable of taking decisions at that stage. And this is what we continue to talk about, the contradiction in the penal code against what the Constitution, which is the grand norm, upholds, which is you cannot engage a child, anybody under 18, in sexual relations. And when you see the Blueprints headline here, more girls to be out of school, and you juxtapose it with the attempt by the National Assembly, we should make all efforts to remove all obnoxious practices, especially the practices that endanger the girl child, especially the practice that puts her in health jeopardy. Because at the end of the day, you marry the girl under 18 and she suffers VVF, and you throw her away and look for another child. And that is the implication of asking a child who did not take part in the decision that led to you contracting her out to marriage to begin to vote. What are you doing? You are trying to even empower more pedophiles to go take the little girl, marry her off, and amass votes for himself or for his cronies or for politicians themselves. So that, for me, should be a major headline. And I urge the media, because we as our own organization, we have caused a press statement to be issued, which was published yesterday, condemning the effort of the National Assembly to ignore the main issues in the Electoral Act reform that we seek, which is 1, electronic voting, which is 2, that's getting the law to back electronic voting, getting the law to back diaspora voting, getting the law to say if you, Salamatu, registered in Gariki, Abuja, in Gariki, and you have relocated to Lugbe, you should be able to vote in Lugbe. These are more germane issues, instead of looking for how you endanger further the girl child, when in the 21st century we are saying no, a girl is a girl. A child should be allowed to grow into adulthood and take a decision about her life, not ruining her by taking her out of education into marriage.
Certainly, this has thrown up a couple of issues. The girl child, the lack of education of the girl child, of course, you know, further exposes her to, you know, the ills in the society, you know, gender-focused dangers and violence that we see with young girls. But Troops rescued 39 Islamia children and recover rustled cattle. I saw a report earlier that mentioned, just how many girls amongst them, was rescued, and altogether about some papers I noticed you saw 39 here, 80 somewhere else, and then 84 somewhere else. But what's more important is that, the security agents didn't allow these children to get into the hands of this bandit. I mean, to get away with these children. And I think for all the things that we've been talking about so far, this is commendable, that we didn't lose another 84 children to the hand of the bandit, making it difficult for us, or forcing the government to negotiate with bandits, which they shouldn't do in the first place.
Yeah, we must commend every effort at protecting our children, and it's good news, we must say, that they were able to rescue these kids. We must commend them. When the military and the police do a great job, we must be able to speak the truth and commend them. The essence of all of this intervention we make is to help guide and improve on our security architecture and other aspects of governance. This is commendable. However, we also want to urge that even if they did not take the girls and the children away now, it is important for us to understand that there is still post-traumatic syndrome disorder, because the fear, the terror that they felt at the point that they were even being threatened and hijacked, it's important we don't look down on it. We must create psychotherapy. We must create a support system that helps them to find themselves again, because when you see these gun-trotting marauders or bandits or terrorists and all that, it is even when you watch movies, when you see movies and you see some of those scenes, you are scared. Then you have kids witness this live. We really must emphasize that beyond rescuing them, we must create the opportunity for them to be helped psychologically too. But we commend the military that we are not thinking about how to locate the kids now and how to pay ransom. This is better. This is commendable.
Now, bandits now targeting traditional rulers. I mean, that's quite disturbing, considering the fact that these are the custodians of culture and of course security in communities. And we saw in the past and current efforts to address the situation, governors meeting with traditional rulers to engage them in helping to address the situation. How troubling do you think this is? Why do you think traditional rulers are suddenly targets of bandits?
Well, nobody is immune. I don't think, for me, this it's of no moment to me with respect, because the ordinary man is targeted, the military personnel are targeted, the police are targeted. The casualties are not only those who have been caught, there are more casualties to be found. Unfortunately, the point is, as they say in our local parlance, any amount where thief sells something, 9 being profit. So whoever is caught, they will make some money in the process. So it's not, I don't think it's really a targeting of, they are looking for money. The festive period is also here.
But it's not even more disturbing that they are targeting traditional rulers, because we know the important and significant role traditional rulers hold.
I am not paying any premium.
The significant role that they play in holding fort, territories and communities. That's what I'm saying, because it's bad enough that families are raided every day, but then it's worse to know that traditional rulers who are supposed to hold fort territories and communities are now targets, giving that concern that these guys are truly overrunning communities. It further deepens concerns about the fact that these bandits have taken over control of these communities, to the point that we saw what happened in Zabarmari, where farmers were killed, to the point that farmers now have to pay what they call extortion fees to be able to access their farms. I'm just highlighting this to illustrate just how serious this issue is.
Okay. Don't also forget that earlier, you know, the traditional rulers were the middlemen, you know, between government and security people, and some of those bandits and kidnappers and some terrorists at that point, that they were able to point or were able to at least have those conversations, create a link to have those conversations and see how, you know, they can have some local intelligence and help bring this to...
Well, with respect again, this is credited to official. Perhaps we'll later be able to see the detail, but let me say that I am not persuaded that there is a special target at traditional rulers. I'm not persuaded by that. I really do think that anybody could be in harm's way. Okay, now for me again, it's interesting if there is a special target. Why not conceding that I take this report seriously? If there is a target or a targeting of the traditional rulers, then for me it calls to question again the roles, action, inactions of the traditional institutions before now. Because how did all this happen? The erosion of our value set. We had to, from begin, in those days, a good name was better than all the riches. But we see that traditional rulers rewarding people with all sorts of chieftaincy titles the moment you have enough money to pay. So a bad name is better than poverty. Okay, so there's been a paradigm shift in our traditional institutions and the ethos and values they upheld. In those days, you would see that a farmer is given, a farmer or a hunter is given an award, a traditional title. But now you see that it has to be the novel rich. So it's a deep situation that did not just happen 10 years ago. We've lost those value sets, those noble values, those altruistic values that made people crave to make positive impact. And we've played up money against noble roles. And that's part of why this is happening. And the traditional institutions played a major part in the erosion of these values.
All right, let's look at this. The SERAP asked Buhari to stop NIN registration, withdraw blockage threats. That's found on the front page of the Nigerian Pilot. And if the president concedes to this, it will be a relief. We saw a couple of headlines concerning that registration. There's going to be a stampede. We saw network providers saying it's 2 weeks is not possible, considering the fact that we're dealing with COVID-19, social distancing, and all of that. How many millions of Nigeria register their SIMs in 2 weeks? What's going on there?
It's an unconscionable, insensitive, and irresponsible 2 weeks ultimatum issued. No. You see, because we are not serious about governance, we wake up at the we are to want to enforce. Look, nowhere in the world is it done even in 1 year. It has to be, look, they need to resolve the templates. Resolve the templates to know, okay, these are the items you need to be properly registered. Now, if you do not show up with either of those items, you cannot be registered. And make sure that corporates, a few weeks ago, we were talking about, you shared your experience, Alamatu, I shared mine, where you walk into any of these vendors' stands and you get registered without anybody even asking for your details. Now, you nip it in the bud from those points. And there is no way. How many people have the name? How many people do? Some people genuinely want it. I can tell you, for instance, my son, who is an undergraduate, we've been struggling to help to get him to get registered. He hasn't gotten registered. And that's not for lack of trying. So we need to also make the system such that it is available for those who seek it. And it mustn't be just NIN. There are those who can use their driver's license. But again, we are saying that we confuse our policies. It's beautiful to want to get every phone user registered.
Well, can we even explore the BVN, for example? You know, to find a way of using the BVN. Because how many millions? We know millions of Nigerians have bank accounts. Can Couldn't we have begun from there?
The BVN is one option. Some people do not have accounts, so in that regard, you say, okay, NIN or driver's license or passport, whatever. But we need to work out. There needs to be a national framework giving you what the options you have while trying to register your SIM. But you and I, who have registered our SIM over and again in the past, cannot be under threat by a government that we are generating tasks and funds for by using our mobile phones. We cannot be under threat of losing communication, especially in this period. So I commend SERAP for taking proactive measure, and I do hope that this will be one of those exceptional times that the president and his minders are humble enough, sensitive enough, responsive and responsible enough to hearken to the cries of the people, because SERAP here has spoken on behalf of the people. And 2 weeks is not enough, 1 year is not enough. They must open up the system in a way that it is continuous.
Now, we understand that a couple of companies have been licensed by the the NCC or to harmonize this data. Some persons have raised concerns about why we actually need these companies to do that.
Well, let me not be too critical of that. If they get companies with the competence to perform their role, then we are fine with it. The important thing is so that the system is fluid and made easier for citizens to be able to register. I do not even have information or detail on the companies that have been so registered, allowed to do that, licensed to do that. But we need to be guided. Every decision to do that, you see, because of the kind of people that we have become, when these things are, threats come that within 2 weeks you will no longer be able to operate your phones, then the next thing you are hearing of companies that have been licensed. You need to look closely again because of the people we have become. A lot of us have become. And I urge media people, do due diligence. Let's find out the cronies, the allies, okay, who they are related to in government, in NCC, in Ministry of Communication. You would find that somehow we just bring in policies in order to create food. I support every effort to get all of us well documented, well registered and all that.
It's long overdue anyway.
It must be guided in good conscience, and let's not use it as an avenue to create food for the boys.
All right, let's go back to the COVID-19 pandemic. States take tough stands amid COVID-19 spike, and a new strain of COVID-19 has been discovered, I think, in the UK, and it's causing a lot of ripple to the extent that countries are banning, persons from entering the UK. Okay, Italy bars flights from the UK, Netherlands, Australia, Belgium as well.
Atiku wants
Nigeria, UK air travel suspended, and Kaduna imposes restrictions on places of worship as workers to stay at home.
This new wave of COVID-19 is serious, really serious. We've lost several people in recent times, some prominent, some close friends. Okay, I can say for sure. A week ago or so, we were discussing with friends, and unfortunately we've lost the plot as a people. People don't care anymore about COVID-19. They are just moving as though it's business as usual. And I found myself somewhere recently, last week, and people were bringing their hands to shake me, and they did namaste. Of course they don't like the idea, and I say, look, COVID-19, the second wave is here, it's serious and all. And they say they don't believe it. Well, it took me time doing all of the talking. I say, I owe you information. I'm going to call 2-3 people that I know closely, not the big men that you know about who have died. I'll call their names and I'll tell you that it's COVID that caused it, and you can take that to the bank. And a particular fellow among them still insisted that he doesn't believe it. And I say, well,
he doesn't believe COVID exists, or that COVID is in Nigeria.
So I said, my role is to give you information.
And you've done that.
And I have done that. And he says, no, you cannot just end it like that. And I said, do I look like the NCDC director? I have given you information, some almost direct experiences that I have. That's enough for me. But NCDC, National Orientation Agency, Ministry of Information, may need to start all over again to really do something. I can tell you that in the last, before now, at the beginning of the coronavirus pandemic, I would receive 2-3 messages from NCDC in a day. But I can tell you that in the last 3 months, I probably only just got a message a few days ago from NCDC. So what does it mean? The citizens have lost their guard. NCDC too is no longer doing all of the advocacy it used to do, or a lot of bodies who should do one thing or the other are not
Everyone's
doing.
relaxed.
So we've lost the plot, and it is very dicey.
Now it appears the states have been given the mandate to enforce, the guidelines. We're seeing certain states who probably may have a tough time doing that because of the economic status of the people that live there. There have been concerns that if there is another lockdown, it would affect the economic fortunes of many, because many businesses are still trying to pick up from the first wave of the virus. Do you think that states will have that political will or have the capacity to lock down their states should the need arise?
Okay, I'll use the information I got from Kaduna as my response. Malam Nasir El-Rufai had sought to lock down.
Imo State governor as well.
The Imo State. But for Kaduna, he had sought to lock down. But the grand swell of protestations and complaints and outcry, he had to slow it down. Because, of course, people cannot really also survive the hungademic, so to speak. When we talk of the coronavirus pandemic, we also talk about the hunger pandemic. Now, because of that, he decided that, okay, if you are caught not using your mask in public place, you pay 20,000 naira fine. And I saw a friend of mine on Facebook who say, I'm not ready to pay again, no, I'm not ready to pay anymore. That means they had caught her and she had been made to cough out 20,000. That's good money for just the Yuletide. She would mix you with good chicken and have some good meal. But she had lost 20,000. So tell you what, if we do the right things, use your mask when you are in public place, wash your hands well, avoid physical contacts and all that. If we do those things, if Nigerians can just comply with it, then states may not need to lock down, because the lockdown is going to be even worse than
there's some places that that will be very difficult. Recall when the lockdown was imposed in the Federal Capital Territory. Going to the market on market days it was difficult. I mean, accessing the market was difficult. Coming out of the market was difficult. If you were driving, you learned to park your car miles away from the market so you don't get stuck in the traffic. You go into the market, it is crowded. In spite of the fact that you have to wear your mask, you couldn't, hard as you tried, you couldn't, keep a safe distance from the next person. So if we were to actually lock down again, many said that the issue of market alone made a mockery, of that lockdown.
Yeah, without doubt. The truth of the matter is that we cannot even afford a lockdown. Majority are in the informal sector and dependent on daily pay. We must be guided by that, one. Two, I just wish Nigerians would be a bit better. You go to market today and do what buying you want to do, and let other people do theirs tomorrow. But there are people who are traditionally an everyday market going person.
You always forget one thing.
Again, because they also earn daily pay and can only buy what they want to, what they have money to
exactly
eat
per day.
Yes, per day. So you cannot. For me, if I must get into the market in situations like that, As soon as I am done, I won't get into the house. I'll probably get to my backyard, pull my clothes off, shower out there before I get in. But how many people can afford that luxury? So it's like between the devil and the deep blue sea. While saying heaven should help us, we also need to do, at least let's reduce it, let's mitigate the spread by at least wearing our face mask. We can't control the market thing no matter what we say. Wear our face mask and do the needful.
The story of the NJC Asbonite sack Grand Candy, we cannot ignore that. Age falsification. On the front page of Nigerian Pilot, NJC recommends 2 judges for retirement, Grand Candy and Grand Caddy, I beg your pardon, and Osun High Court Judge. You know.
So Yobe and Osun State.
Yes. Well, the one who is caught is the one who is the thief. You and I know that over 90% of the people in public service will have hidden their original birth certificate under their portmanteau, as they call it those days, and what they have is age declaration. You would find that this is normal in service. Unfortunately, this is the practice in service. You'll find somebody, when you begin to screen his credentials, you'll discover by the age he has declared now and redeclared that at the time he said he went to secondary school, he was 5 years old. Now this is typical, but again I commend NJC, because as much as yes there's corruption in the system too, they at least tend to occasionally act and weed the system of bad eggs. These ones are the ones weeded for age falsification. There are judges who really make a mess of their oath of office and all that, but it is good that they are forthright, they come forward, they disclose this, they take actions. We are waiting for their state governors also
to take action,
append their signatures to this, so that these people, but we must go beyond just sacking them into one, they must pay back the monies they earned during the period they had already overshot their age. 1, 2, they should be prosecuted.
Work hard for 2023. I don't know who is speaking here, but all the details you find on page 8 of the Nigerian Pilot Summit asked Ndebo to work hard to achieve target of presidency. The authorities also has a story that has to do with politics. 2023 presidency, Northern Group canvasses Northeast, Southwest tickets for PDP, APC. This is 2020, and we're already looking for how to position, individuals for elections in 2023.
Our politicians are increasingly on the path of infamy. I keep saying that we should play the politics of good governance, not the politics of party. You would see that there's so much desperation, self-serving desperation. Nobody is thinking about how to bring succor to the people. They are just thinking about how to seize power, how to take power, how to lobby and all that. You do the biggest hard work if our electoral act is well reformed and made to ensure that our votes reflect our intentions. If you do the electoral act reform properly, and I charge civil society organizations who are also involved with the Joint Committee of the National Assembly to make the strong inputs, we've given them information, we've made representation, and they are making representation there. If you do the needful and return power to the people through the ballot box, I can assure you that all any lawmaker needs, all any governor needs, all any politician needs is to touch the lives of his people, and it will win landslide. It won't need to work hard to build political machinery.
As captured by Nigerian Pilot, work hard.
It will need to work hard to affect the people positively. And we see a few lawmakers touching lives. I'm not going to sing anybody's praise specifically, but the only way to get governance working again is to return power to the people through the ballot box by the amendment of the Electoral Act. That way, politicians will be desperate to be true servants of the people, and that way we will get our country right again.
Wanted to take me back to the issue of electoral reforms. Why are we still talking talking about it rather than just taking action.
And
Honestly,
those who are reforming it now are talking about how the underage girl who is married in breach of our constitution should be allowed to vote, so that more of them will marry these small girls and manipulate them. They would have no voice. They will be infected with DVF eventually and thrown away. That is gender-based violence.
Lemi Wugbe, I'm glad you're giving these vulnerable group of voice. Gender and child rights advocate Lemi Wugbe is also a public affairs commentator and a journalist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lema, for being here today. All right, I'm sure it won't come to you as a surprise that we are focused on talking about security in our conversations today. We will be reviewing the security situation in Nigeria and the northern part of the country, that is banditry in the northwest, Boko Haram in the northeast, as well as killing and kidnappings by armed herdsmen in the middle belt and southern part of the country. We will begin the conversation with taking the views of a former director of the Department of State Service, Mike Ejiofor, who is also a lawyer and is seated already in the studio. Mike, we hear that it's your birthday today, but we'll talk about that when we join you. Stay with us. We'll be right back.